I'm hoping that this is going to be my last video of 2017. I'm hoping I can squeak it in before midnight tomorrow, but who knows whether or not that will happen. I posted a little update on my cross stitch earlier on. It was live. Let me know what you thought, because I'm planning to sort of try a bit more live streaming in the future. Today I'm here to show you how I attach my cross stitch to a scroll frame. I was asked to show you this by somebody on YouTube. They requested it on my how to cross stitch video. Just in case you don't know what a scroll frame is, this is one. I bought this in, I want to say Tavistock. I think it was about £30. A lot of people I've seen on the internet find them in thrift shops or online. They find great deals, but I bought this new. I'm very happy with it. I don't know what brand it is, but I think they are all fairly similar. It's two solid rods at the ends and then wing nuts or some sort of tightening device so that you can scroll these two movable bars. And then this one has got fabric on each of these bars that you then sew your work to, and then you rotate it to tighten. I was not shown how to do this. I didn't look up any tutorials. I just sort of went for it. So the way that I do it may be slightly different to ways you've seen it done before. The project I'm going to be putting on it is the Plum Street Samplers 12 Days of Christmas. I started this as a stitch along in 2016, and as you can see I didn't get very far with it. When I got asked to do the scroll frame tutorial, I was trying to think about what projects would go on the scroll frame, and this one fits. I think part of the reason I've not actually finished this is because I've been doing it in a hoop frame, which I personally love. I do love hoop frames. Because there's so much white space on this, I'm finding that I'm having to move the hoop a lot more often than I would like to. So I'm going to stick it in the scroll frame now that this is empty. This is what I did the leopard on, and hopefully it'll be done shortly. I really miss cross stitch, so it'll be good to get it going. It does take a little bit of time because I sew my cross stitch fabric to the fabric on the scroll on the end of each frame, and then I also sort of do a lacing around these edges to hold it tight horizontally. So that is that. I'm gonna get started. I've got myself just a normal sewing needle, which you definitely can't see, and then some just normal nylon sewing thread. I'm going to pin the top of the cross stitch to the fabric strip first. I like to put mine underneath this fabric. I feel like it's just stronger, but maybe it doesn't make a difference. Maybe I'll try it this way this time. I do like to leave a fair amount of spare fabric at the top of the cross stitch. I didn't know that I was going to put this in the hoop scroll frame when I first started this piece, but I do always like to leave myself a good border around my work so that if anything ever happens, I've got a lot of fabric to play with. I don't do this neatly or at all technically. I like to do it with a really contrasting thread to both fabrics, so to my background fabric and to the fabric on the bar, because later on when you come to remove the cross stitch, the more easily you can identify which threads need to be snipped, the better. I'm going up and down, and I'm overlapping my previous stitches quite a lot. This does need to be quite a strong join, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It's not really a seam, is it? My camera cut out just as I was getting to the end of that, which tells us that it's been probably about 25 minutes that it took me to do all of that. It does take a long time, but it is 100% worth it. So I'm just gonna scroll this slightly, just to sort of wind it up. I'm going to just measure how far from the edge I am there, because I do want it to be centered if I can. In centimeters, it's 2.6 centimeters. So I want to make sure that I join this bottom edge at 2.6 centimeters as well. I'm just going to fasten this here at my 2.6 centimeters, and then I'll pin the rest. So push the pin down with my right hand, use my left hand to bend the pin up at the back and fabric down at the front, and then right hand push the pin through. Rinse and repeat. Right, I have finished that, so now I've got my very loosely attached cross stitch on my scroll frame. What I'm going to do now is get myself back up to the top, which is where I want to be stitching. I'm going to make sure that I have probably about 1 centimetre here between the bottom of the scroll bar and the beginning of my stitching, so that when it's taut down here I can still put my needle up through this bit. You don't want your stitching to start right at the top of the scroll bar like here, because otherwise you can't stitch through the bar. So there's about 1 centimetre between where the bar ends and my stitching begins. So on the top we're going to leave it there, which means that I'm going to tighten it from the bottom. Now I do want to try and be quite tight about this, so I'm just going to sort of hold the fabric down as I turn the bar. The more even you are, the less work you're going to have to do when it comes to the horizontal tightening. And also try to make sure that the edges are lining up. I haven't got a very long scroll bar. If my side supports here were longer, then more of the design would fit on at any one time. This just means that I'm going to have to unstitch it all once I've finished this bit within this region and then re-tighten horizontally. I'm going to tighten the wing nuts on the top first. Oh, that's already been pulled slightly down, so I'll loosen it a bit more. You can see better what I mean by 1 centimetre here. So there's got to be at least 1 centimetre of clear space so that I can make sure I can still stitch up towards the top of my stitching. Right, so tighten the wing nut and make sure that that can't move anymore. Getting a nice little look at the back of my work here. Okay, that one is solidly attached. And now I'm going to scroll the bottom bar, I'm now holding it in place. This is, you can probably hear that's pretty tight. And then just tighten at the back. You don't need to be too forceful with the wing nuts. I have split my wooden supports before and had to glue them back in place. So there we go, that is quite tight, and you could probably get away with just stitching like this, but I like it to be even tighter. You can probably see that there are some wrinkles in it. I like there to be absolutely no wrinkles. So I've got some cotton yarn here. This is really no thicker than the 6 strands of embroidery floss, but I've got loads of spare cotton yarn lying around, so I would rather use this than my actual embroidery floss. And then you could also use a cross-stitch needle if you really wanted to, but I have got a tapestry needle here. This is entirely Corrie's system. Nobody has ever shown me this, so it may be slightly strange to you. So I'm going to take the end of this yarn, I'm just going to use it straight from the ball. Now I'm going to take my tapestry needle, and that's about 2 centimetres in. I'm going to go up through my stitching, through my fabric. This is why I like to have a big border. Then I'm going to go around that crossbar and back up, and then I'm just going to keep on doing that all the way down. Okay, so I've got to the end of that and I've left a long tail here, and I'm going to cut another long tail at the end of my ball of yarn. As I say, it could be embroidery floss. When I did it with the leopard, I didn't do it as tightly as this. I don't know why these are so, I think they're probably only about 2 centimetres apart each. I think I did them about 5 centimetres apart when I was doing the leopard, but who knows. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, so back in a jiff. So now what I do is I'm going to gradually tighten these up. Take each end and wrap it around these support bars so that they can't come undone. The type of scroll frame you have will limit whether or not you can do this. So there's sort of a little groove between this and my actual bar, and I've sort of wedged my thread in there. I've not tied anything. And then same on this side. While I was doing this, my mum called me and I had a quick conversation with her. She asked me what I was doing and I said I was sewing. This is a loose definition of sewing. How to spend your last full day of 2017. Perfect, really. So I've got those 2 ends secured, and now I'm going to just use my fingers to slowly lift up, almost as if I was tightening the laces on a pair of shoes. When you get towards the other end and the other loose end, you've got to sort of pay attention to what you're doing to avoid pulling it out in the wrong direction. There we go. So they've both been slightly tightened, and now I'm going to do exactly the same thing as I did on this end, which is wrap it around that end piece on that side. And I'll leave that one for now. Now I'm going to go through here and tighten it again. And basically what I'm doing from this point onwards is I'm sort of fine-tuning the tension. So there will be a bit of warping in the fabric because I'm now stretching it horizontally more than it was originally stretched when I sewed it to my crossbar. But I'm not too bothered about that really. I mean, you can see how much of this I've managed to extract. So I'm going to wrap that around just twice and then I'm going to go again. So again, just slowly bring up slack. And then when I get to the end, reel that slack in and then secure it around the end of my crossbar again. This is the bit, this horizontal tightening bit, that really revolutionised the scroll bar for me. You can probably hear that that is much tauter, there's no more wrinkles. So I'm going to, just to even out, I don't know if you can see that it's now quite stretched on this side and it's not on that side. I'm going to do the same on this side. So I'm just going to make sure that this here is really well secured, because if that comes undone, I'll have to do it all over again. And the reason I'm not tying anything is because when I've stitched all the way down to here, I'm going to have to undo all of this and then reel all of this up so I can access the lower bits and then do this again. And it's not a permanent thing, I don't want it to be too difficult to take undone, otherwise it'll just drive me crazy and I'll never want to do it again. So I'm just slowly bringing in the slack here, and then when I get to the end, undo here and pull that in, wrap it round, and then probably for the last time, at this point I'm probably just stretching my yarn more than I am pulling on my fabric. You do not want to pull on the fabric so hard that you start ripping your little Ada squares, well, or linen, whichever one. You don't want to start ripping your threads. So I don't know if you would have heard it, but one of them pinged as I went through, so this is as tight as I'm going to go. Otherwise I'm going to start damaging my fabric even more. It is now stretched to my liking. I'm going to make sure that this is properly secured so that it doesn't just ping undone while I'm stitching. And there you have it. I hope you found that clear and useful. If you have any questions at all or you want me to clarify anything, please let me know. When I go through and edit it, I will try to make sure that it is as clear as possible, and I'll try zoom in a bit, but it's quite hard to do because there's a lot of sort of flipping around, and hopefully my explanation and the visuals are good enough. But if you do have any questions, please let me know. I really, really hope that this has helped you. Thank you so much to the person who requested it, because I've actually quite enjoyed doing this. It's always enjoyable to sort of share the way that you do things. I'm going to be doing a live stream. I haven't set a date yet. If you want to find out in advance, then please do follow me on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. All of the links are in the description box down below. But I'm going to be trying out live streaming this year to keep you updated on my cross-stitch antics rather than edited videos, because as I explained in my Happy New Year video, my laptop is on its way out, and the less time I have to spend battling with my memory and all of that stuff, the laptop's memory, not my memory, the better. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye!